The day I found out my wife was cheating was the day my world shattered. But it was also the day I started putting the pieces back together. Not as the man I was, but as someone stronger. Someone who would make every single person who betrayed me pay. It all started with a misplaced phone. Sarah, my wife of 10 years, was always so careful with her things. But that morning, in a rush to get to a work emergency, she left it on the kitchen counter. A single notification lit up the screen. Last night was incredible. Can't wait for our next business trip. M. My heart stopped. M. Who was M? My mind raced through her colleagues, our friends, anyone with that initial. But it was no use. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it was already growing roots of pure, cold rage. I didn't confront her, not yet. That would have been too easy to clean. No, they deserved more than a simple shouting match and a messy divorce. I needed a plan. I needed to know everything. For the next few weeks, I became a ghost in my own home. I put a tracker on her car and recovery software on her phone. It felt double wherein, like a violation of the man I used to be. The man who trusted her with his whole heart. But that man was gone, replaced by a strategist, a hunter. The data started pouring in. Text messages, call logs, GPS locations. The M was Mark, my best friend. My brother. The man who stood next to me at my wedding. The man I trusted with my life, with my business, with my wife. The business trips were weekends at a boutique hotel just an hour away. The late-night client dinners were intimate meals for two. Each new piece of evidence was a fresh stab in the back. But the pain was quickly being replaced by a chilling clarity. And it wasn't just Mark. Sarah's texts revealed a web of deceit that entangled more than just the two of them. My own sister, Laura, knew. She'd covered for them, lied to my face, told me I was being paranoid when I'd ask if Sarah seemed distant. She's just stressed with work. You need to be more supportive, she'd said, while knowing my wife was in another man's arms. Even some of my employees were in on it. My financial controller, David, had been helping Mark cook the books in our shared business, siphoning funds to finance their little getaways. They were all vultures, picking apart the life I had built. The betrayal was so total, so absolute, that it almost felt unreal. But the evidence was undeniable. I had screenshots, call recordings, and financial records. I had everything I needed. Now, it was time for the execution. My revenge wouldn't be a single, explosive event. It would be a slow, methodical dismantling of their lives, just as they had dismantled mine. Phase 1. The business. Mark was my partner, a 50-50th split. Or so he thought. I called an emergency board meeting, with our investors present. I started the presentation calmly, talking about company performance and future projections. Then, with a click of the remote, the screen changed. It wasn't a sales chart. It was a detailed breakdown of David's fraudulent transactions, showing funds being moved from our company account to a shell corporation owned by Mark. The room went silent. I showed them the hotel receipts, paid for by the stolen money. Mark's face went white. David looked like he was about to be sick. By the end of the meeting, Mark was voted out, his shares forfeit due to gross misconduct. David was fired on the spot, with a promise that I'd be reporting him to the authorities. I walked out of that boardroom, leaving my ex-best friend's career in ashes. Phase 2. The family. The next family dinner was at my parents' house. It was a tense affair. Laura kept trying to catch my eye, a nervous tick, giving her away. I waited until dessert. As everyone was enjoying my mother's apple pie, I stood up, cleared my throat, and said I had an announcement. I played a recording. It was Laura, on the phone with Sarah, laughing about how gullible I was. He has no idea, Laura's voice cackled through the speaker. He's so wrapped up in work, he wouldn't notice if you were gone for a week. The silence that followed was deafening. My parents looked at Laura with a mixture of shock and disgust. Her husband stared at her, speechless. I didn't need to say another word. I had exposed her as the snake she was, right in front of the people whose approval she craved the most. I left them to their shattered family dinner, the taste of my mother's pie turning to ash in their mouths. Phase 3. The wife. This was the final act. I came home that night to find Sarah pacing in the living room. Mark had obviously called her in a panic. She started to speak, a prepackaged lie ready on her lips. "Honey, something terrible happened at work. ... I didn't let her finish. I just dropped a single manila envelope on the coffee table in front of her. Inside was a copy of every text, every photo, every hotel booking. Sopanevid, and her face crumbled as she saw her entire secret life laid bare. "How?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "You left your phone," I said, my voice devoid of all emotion. "You got careless. All of you did." I told her about the meeting. I told her about the dinner with my parents. I explained, in painstaking detail, how I had taken away everything from the people who had conspired with her to betray me. Mark had lost his job and his reputation. David was facing legal charges. My sister was now a pariah in our own family. "And you," I said, looking her dead in the eye for the first time in weeks, "you lose me. You lose this house. You lose everything we built. Because you didn't just break my trust. You burned it to the ground and danced on the ashes with my best friend." She started to cry, to beg, to make excuses, but I felt nothing. The man who loved her was long gone. I had already packed my bags. I walked out the door without looking back, leaving her alone in the house that was no longer ours, surrounded by the evidence of her betrayal. The aftermath was messy, of course. Divorces are never clean. But I had the upper hand. With the evidence of her affair and Mark's financial fraud, the settlement was heavily in my favor. I sold the business, took my half, and started fresh somewhere new. I never spoke to Mark or my sister again. Their names became whispers from a past life. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far, but then I remember the cold dread I felt when I saw that first text message. I remember the faces of my supposed friends and family, lying to me while they stabbed me in the back. My revenge wasn't just about anger. It was about justice. It was about taking back control from the people who thought they could destroy me and get away with it. They exposed themselves as traitors, and I just made sure they paid the price. I rebuilt my life from the ground up, stronger and smarter than before. And I sleep soundly at night, knowing I'm the one who had the last laugh. Thanks for watching my story. If you've ever been through something similar, know that you're not alone, and that the best revenge is building a better life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories. See you next time.